Hello, good evening, everyone. Please confirm you can hear me by raising your hands. Oh, okay, good. Okay. You can drop your hands now. So, how are we all doing? I hope we're all good and we had a very good day. You can tell us about your day on the chat. Just a quick one, how your day went. Someone is saying my day was somehow. Lagos traffic, sorry about that. Stressful. Was good. Great so far. Okay, guys. All right. So I want to know what you guys learned. The last class was handled by Design Tree. Yes. So I want to know what you guys learned. So I'll be taking an answer from one person. So I'm just going to okay. I'm just going to unmute one person and then you tell me what you learned in the last class. So if you know you're up for that question, just raise your hand so that I can unmute you and then you can talk. Okay, so Esene Solomon, can we hear you?
Ah, I never knew I raised my hands up.
Oh, okay. All right. You
I'm
can lower
sorry.
your hand then, no problem. So, like I said earlier, who is up for this question? The rest of you can please lower your hand so we do not confuse people. So, I'm just going to ask again. I want someone to tell me what he or she learned in the last class. So, if you're up for that question, raise your hand. Okay, so I'm going to call the very first person here. Odunayo, okay. Please tell us.
Okay, good evening, Ma.
Good evening.
So from the last class, we talked about introduction to design. We talked about the guidelines. We talked about the career paths in digital designs, which she mentioned product designer, UI UX designer, and UX designer. She also talked about why UI UX design, and she also made mention of some skills needed as a UI UX designer, and also self-improvement techniques, and also the tools to learn, and also I think that's all she talked about.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much, Odunayo. So that'll be all. The rest of you can lower your hand now. So I hope you all are very excited about today's class because we are going to be discussing an interesting topic today. And as always, I would love for this class to be very interactive. Okay. I want you to ask questions. I want you to interact in this class. So I'm just going to share my screen now. Please confirm you can see my screen by raising your hands. Okay, so I'm sure everyone is seeing my screen. All right. Okay. So we'll just get right into it. Please do not unmute your mics until you're told to do so. Thank you very much. Okay, so today we'll be talking about design thinking in UX. And like I said, it's a very interesting topic. All right, so we'll get right into it. My name is Favor Sunday, and I am your trainer, as always. So today is the third class we'll be having since the beginning of CodeCamp 2.0. Right, so first of all, we know what design is. I mean, design sheet taught us what design is. I all know what it means to think. So like I said before, we'll be talking about design thinking in UX. Okay, so these are the goals of today's class. First, know the basics of design thinking, understand the design thinking processes end to end. And lastly, we're looking at the resources. We'll be sharing a few resources with you. Resources that you can actually read on later, watch videos to get to know more about this topic. So first, this is like a reminder, what is UX? I mean, we talked about it the last time. User experience simply means designing products, interfaces, or systems in such a way that they enhance the experience of users. And I'm still going to say it, as UI/UX designers, we are problem solvers, okay? So we're here designing products or interfaces that will enhance the experience of users, make sure that they do not get confused or lost when going through a particular product. To make sure that, okay, we keep this application as simple as possible so that they can understand at first glance. So I'm sure we all know what UX design is now. So next, what is design thinking? Design thinking is a non-linear iterative process that teams use to understand the users, challenge assumptions, redefine problems, and create innovative solutions. Okay, so when given a design project, we do not just rush into designing the UIs, okay? First of all, we have to go through a process. We cannot just start putting up designs. We have to go through processes, okay, to do this thing in order to create a long-lasting product. Design thinking, you should note, is a framework that UX designers use in order to tackle big, complicated, or even largely unknown problems in product development. So today, I want to be very practical. So this is actually going to help you to understand design thinking better. So we can see this diagram. Okay, so earlier today, I was discussing with a friend of mine, and then we got talking about design thinking. And then we came to realize that, we actually do this whole thinking process. We use this in our everyday lives. Okay, for instance, I want to use someone on this call. What do we have here? For instance, I'm looking for a name I can pronounce. Anita, yes. Okay, Anita. For instance, Anita tells me that she is hungry. Okay. So what's the first step here? We have, this is the design thinking process. We have empathize, okay? Empathy. So that's the first step. First of all, what is empathy? This is understanding people's feelings. You're trying to understand how these people are feeling, okay, and share in their feelings. So first of all, I understand that Anita is hungry. That's the first step. And then after that, I define, okay, I know what the problem is. What's the problem here? Anita is hungry. That's the problem, hunger. All right. The next step we have is ideas. This is where I get to now brainstorm. Okay, how do I give Anita food? How do I quench this hunger? Okay, how do I help to solve this problem? How do I meet her need? And then the prototype is where I now put these ideas into work, okay, into reality. This is where I either give Anita money to get food, or I buy food for Anita. It could be snacks, it could be anything. This is the prototype stage. I put these ideas I have gotten into work. Okay, I put these ideas into reality. And then lastly, we have the tests. This is where I now ask myself, was I able to meet Anita's need? Okay, was I able to satisfy her hunger? All right, so I'm just trying to say that design thinking, we use this in our everyday lives. Okay, it could be trying to solve a problem. It could be, let's say we have a problem at hand. For most of you guys that are in school, you were asked to maybe submit an assignment. Okay, so first of all, you're going to define the whole problem and then think of solutions. Okay, brainstorm ideas, and then put these solutions into work. And then at the end, you're going to ask yourself, okay, was I able to deliver this assignment successfully and all of that? So I'm just going to go back to this, telling us that design thinking is a non-linear. What does it mean? And what does non-linear mean? We're not following a particular process. I mean, it's not like we're following a particular process. That's from the empathize to the define, and to reach the testing. Iterative, there's a repetition. We can go over this process over and over again. Okay, when I'm done testing, it doesn't mean that's the end of the process. I can still go over and redefine the problem. I can still go over to the prototyping stage. Okay, I can still go over and brainstorm ideas. So that's what it means. That's what iterative process means. Okay, that teams use to understand the users and to challenge assumptions. I know I said this the last time, but I'm going to say it again. That whenever, as UX designers, we should understand that we are problem solvers. That's one. And then we should also note that it is not about us. It is never about us. So we should try and put our assumptions aside, see through the eyes of the users, try to understand our users, their needs, and all of that. Okay, so with that, I'm going to show us this diagram again. So this is the design thinking process. We have the first one, empathize. This is where you get to empathize, understand your users. You share in their feelings. This is the ability. Empathy is the ability to sense other people's emotions, coupled with the whole ability to imagine what someone else might be thinking or feeling. So when I know what my user is thinking or feeling, okay, that way I understand who my users are, what they want to see in this product. Okay, and with that information, I know how to solve their problem. I know how to fix this need. So when that is done, we move to the next stage. This is where we get to define the problem. All right. And then we bring up ideas. This is the idea stage. We think of ideas, we brainstorm and all of that. We move to the prototyping stage. We learn from prototypes to spark new ideas. And then we move to the test stage. This is where we test the ideas that you've created for this product. This is where you get to ask yourself questions. Okay, at the end of this process, was I able to meet this need? Was I able to do this and that? All right, so we'll just dive right into it. We're going to be looking at these processes one after the other. So just follow along. Step isn't to look at the market. I mean, when you're working on a project, the first step isn't to look at the market. On the user. The goal of this stage is to understand the user's needs, wants, and hates, everything about the user. What motivates them? What workarounds do they have daily? You want to gather enough information. You want to gather a lot of knowledge about how users live their lives and how you can help them enjoy life even more. You want to know how they order food and etc., how they do all of these things. Okay, and you can achieve this by engaging with users. You can hold interviews, but then when you're creating interviews or conducting interviews rather, try to make it casual, okay, more like a conversation so that you get to know more about these people. They don't want formal interviews, okay? Already, I'm trying to relate to this person. So I want to keep it as casual as possible to get these people to open up to me, okay? So I can actually read their emotions and all of that. We're still in the empathy stage. So a very important note regarding this stage is that the designer needs to resist the temptation to form assumptions regarding users. I already told you guys that it is not about us. It is never about us. It is about the users. So we have to keep whatever assumptions, whatever thing we think we know about these users. We have to keep them aside, drop our assumptions aside. You can see the definition I placed here. Empathy is setting aside your own assumptions about the world in order to gain real insight into the users and their needs. Set aside whatever you think you know and see through the eyes of the users. This is actually more difficult than we may realize. You know, when I'm saying put your assumptions aside, people will be like, okay, it is very simple. That's very easy thing to do, but it's not. It's actually very difficult. I mean, we're humans, so it is very easy to assume things about people. So that's why we need to be very careful, as assumptions can lead your product away from the real solution to creating useless products that users don't hate it, okay, but then they don't need it anyway. They don't need it either. This is what happens when you try to work on your own assumptions. Like I said, we're humans. We tend to do these things, okay, without even realizing it. So we should try our best to be very careful, because this thing can actually lead our product away from the real solutions that we're trying to bring up to creating useless products. And we don't want that. We don't want any of that. Don't think that after talking to the user once or twice, you understand their struggles, their desires, and all of that. No, it's not that easy, okay? You have to watch out for those assumptions that don't rest on a solid basis of evidence. Like your product depends on it, because actually your product actually depends on it. So I'll just wrap up this first stage, with a piece of advice for all of you. Never assume you know enough. Okay, this will stick to your head. And I'm sure you guys are taking notes. Never assume you know enough. Put all your assumptions aside. Try to understand the feelings of your users, your users' emotions and all of that. Because assumptions can ruin everything. Imagine spending your time creating a product with your assumptions. You're thinking, okay, I think the users are going to need this. I think the users are going to need this. I feel the users are going to need this. And then at the end of the day, you spend a huge sum of money developing a product that, means nothing to the users. Because first of all, you built this application on your own assumptions. You did not see through the eyes of the users. You did not understand their feelings and all of that. So this is that for the empathy stage. We're going to move on to the next stage. Define, stage 2. This stage in the design thinking, it aims at the real problem your design will set out to solve. So like I said before, remember when I brought up the whole example using Anita? Okay, Anita is hungry. I know what the problem is. I'll be able to define the problem. Anita is hungry. That's the problem. What's the problem? We're trying to fix this hunger. Okay, so now is the time to take everything you know about the user. When we're done with the empathy, okay, empathize stage where we get to relate with our users, understand them, understand their behavior and all of that. This is everything I know about the user, all the information I'll be able to gather and identify the problems to make the user's experience better, to create long-lasting products that my users are going to enjoy, going to give them this beautiful experience. Okay, these definitions are what we call problem statements. So actually, you want to define the issue based on your user research without losing sight of the human side of your products. Try not to make your company the center of everything. Always remember to keep the user in the spotlight at all times. Okay, so instead of saying, we need to do this, we need to do that, you should say, users need this. Okay, instead of saying, we need this particular feature, users need this. Put that in mind, okay? So instead of saying all of that, we should put the users in the spotlight at all times during the whole process. You most likely come back to this stage though, in the design thinking process, once you start elaborating on your ideas and carry out some testing. Even the best and most experienced designers, okay, they learn something new when prototyping and testing and all of these processes. So you should not resist changing stuff on your problem statement. Okay, like I said, it is an iterative process. So you might be wondering, what is problem statement? Problem statement is a description of an issue to be addressed or a condition to be improved upon. That's what we call a problem statement. And it identifies the gap between the current state and the desired state of a product or a process. That's what we call a problem statement. All right, so it is better to keep coming back to this to make sure you have it right than assuming that, you've gotten the perfect solution and all of that, only to find out that once the product is released, you have gotten everything wrong. So define state. This is the core function of your product. It's the reason why people will get it in the first, why people want this application in the first place. So you get the problem wrong, and then your whole products will suffer the consequences. So we have to identify the core problems, okay, of the users. This is what the user, this is the problem. This is the problem we're trying to fix. This is what the user wants. This is where we get to define the problem. So like I said, this stage in the design thinking process aims at the real problem your design will set out to solve. And you can see this diagram here, where you get to define the problem. We have user in the center. Like I said, it is all about the user. It is never about us. So to just summarize this stage, define, this is where you get to define the problem. What exactly is the problem? I mean, we cannot go about creating solutions when we don't have a problem. That's right. We cannot go about bringing up solutions. Bringing up solutions for what, actually, when we don't have a problem? So we have to define what the problem is before we now move into the next processes. So we're just going to move into the next one now, which we call the ideate stage. Now you're ready to generate ideas. The solid background of knowledge from the first two phases mean you can start to think outside the box, look for alternative ways to view the problem, and identify innovative solutions to the problem statement you have created. You know, now we've actually created the problem statement. Brainstorming is particularly used here. So yes, this is the part of the design thinking process that I love most. Why? Because I get to dream up possible solutions. At this point, you've done your research. I have a clear understanding of who the product is for, what it is meant to do for its users, and why that matters so much to the users. Okay, we've been able to define all of this. Now that you have actually, now that you and your team, you're actually working with a team, when you're done with this, you can actually now start dreaming up ways that the design could check all the right boxes. Bringing up ideas, how do we fix this? We have the problem now. So we now have to ask ourselves, how do we fix this? And you should note that if you're working with a team, I want to make this very clear because very soon we're going to move into the project phase. Okay, where you'll be working in groups. Allow people in your teams to bring up ideas, no matter how bad, how awful you think they are. Let people bring up opinions without judgments. Okay, you could think there are bad options and all of that. Allow people to bring up ideas without judgments. Okay, so like I said, you use your problem statement as a starting point and then you build from there. You know what the problem is. Now, how do we solve it? We try to think of ideas. Ideas, okay, looking at this diagram on the right, ideas about what the product is all about. What do we have to do? Why is it so important for our users? Here we brainstorm, we bring up ideas, bad options, good options. We bring everything up. We think outside the box, crazy ideas. At this stage, you want to get as many ideas down as possible. I mean, as many ideas as possible. It's okay if all of them are actually, they may seem feasible or I mean unrealistic. All right. You just have to, you want everyone on your team to let their ideas flow without judgment. I already said this. Take note of this. Allow your team members to let their ideas flow in without judgment. At the end, you can actually separate the ideas according to their feasibility or awesomeness. You can actually divide them, then you can actually separate the ideas. But when we're talking about when we are actually in the idea stage, this is where we get to think, okay, bring up ideas. Like I said, brainstorming, bring up a lot of ideas, a lot of opinions from different people. You know, people think differently. Okay, so I might be thinking this particular way, I might see things this other way, and then we have a mentor on this call. He actually could be saying things another way. I mean, what else am I saying? Anita could be thinking like we have different thinking processes. Okay, Amaka could actually have her own ideas. Angela could have his or her own ideas and all of that. Okay, we want to bring up all these ideas together. Okay, in this particular stage, we want to bring all the ideas we can get together. And then when we've sorted it out, we can actually, separate them, like I said earlier. All right, so now I'm going to be giving room for questions before I move on to the next stage. Because we've talked about a lot. I want to know that everyone is following. So if you have any question, please raise your hand and I'm going to call you. Okay, I have someone here. We have Liu Ekene. All right, Leo, what do you have for us?
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Yeah, we've talked about the three different stage, three different phrases, and where I'm not really clear on is the definition stage of actually the problem or whatever. You said you start by empathizing with the users, then the second
Yes.
one, if we talk about the definition of the problem or I found it very clear. Please just maybe you break it down for me a little bit. That problem statement itself as a phrase now, like how does it connect to that stage 2? Thank you.
All right. Okay, so Leo, I'm going to take this over again. So, the first stage is the empathy stage, where we get to understand the needs, understand the behaviors of our users. When we've actually done this, what's the next stage? We want to find out what the problem is. What are we trying to solve here? Okay, I remember in the last class, we used I used food ordering application as a case study. Okay, so I know who my users are. The users, my target users are these people who do not order food online. These people who find it very hard to, locate restaurants, good restaurants, or find good food. So what now is the problem? The problem is that these people, this is an economic problem actually. These people find it hard to locate good restaurants to eat. Or these people actually, they have busy schedules, so they find it hard to get food. That is a problem. This is the stage where we define this problem. So like it's written here, this stage in the design thinking process aims at the real problem your design will set out to solve. What is the problem? What are we trying to solve here on this food ordering application? Okay, we're trying to solve the problem of, these people find it hard to get food. So we have to make sure that these people can actually, from the comfort of their homes or offices, they can place an order with just a click of their phone. That is what we're trying to solve here. We already know what the problem is. So when you know what the problem is, that's how you bring up solutions. Like I said earlier, okay, and you asked about problem statements. I already told you that problem statement is a description of an issue. Okay. Description of an issue to be addressed or a condition to be improved upon. And I said that this actually identifies the gap between the current state and the desired state. What is the current state now? These people find it hard to order food or locate good restaurants. What is the desired state? They will be able to actually order this food. They will be able to locate restaurants. They will be able to sort restaurants by the prices, the location, and all of that. That is a problem statement. This is what we're trying to solve. This is the problem at hand. That's what we call problem statements. So I'm just going to summarize this again by saying that in this stage, we get to define the problem. Okay, it's still from the user's point of view. Like I said earlier, it's from the user's point of view. Now is the time to make everything you know about the user. I already said it that, okay, we know a lot about our users. That's from the empathy stage. We found out a lot about these people. Okay, these people find it hard to get food, or they've had a lot of ill experiences ordering food online. They do not trust this whole application. We know all of this, their anger, their frustrations. We understand everything about our target users. When this is done, we get to now define the problem. What is the problem here? What exactly are we trying to fix? Like I said, we cannot start thinking, bringing up ideas, okay, bringing up solutions when we do not have a problem. We have to define the problem, okay? Yes, so I'm seeing two hands are being raised here. Leo, I don't know, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much. I'm
You're
grateful.
welcome. You're welcome. So I'm seeing a hand here. We have Freda Chibuzo. What's your question?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My question is, you talk about the defined stage.
Okay.
My name is sound sensible. But what if maybe you interviewed, maybe I am a designer and I interviewed like 10 users. Now, what if the 10 users, they have different problems? How do we narrow it down into picking into picking a solution? They have different problems at all. Do you just narrow it down to picking just one person's problem and solving it? Or there is a way to handle the 10 people's problem?
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So yes, Freda, you said we've actually conducted an interview for 10 different people. Okay, you should note that we already have a problem statement. Okay, we already have, okay, we know what this is the product we're trying to create. So all the problems these people are going to state, all the challenges, all the frustrations, it's going to be around this particular problem. You do not expect them to, okay, we're asking, how do you order food online, or what's your experience like ordering food online, and then they're telling us something different, something entirely different from the food ordering application. All I'm trying to say, everything narrows down to this problem statement. Everything evolves around this. They may have different frustrations, okay? This one would say, I do not trust this application because, I mean, the last time I tried ordering food from an online platform, they duped me. And someone else will have another frustration. There are a lot of ads on this application. Okay, someone else is going to have another frustration. Okay, I was not able to do this, or this application was not responsive. All of this, okay, there's what we call pain points. We're going to talk about this in the next class. These are the pain points of the users. We have one problem here. People find it hard to order food. Okay, like you said, people have different problems. Someone else might say, I do not like cooking, or I cannot locate a restaurant nearby, and all of that. We're going to come up with a problem. What is the problem exactly? I don't know if you understand me. What is the problem exactly? What are we trying to solve here? We're trying to create an application, a product that will make it easier for, people are different. So I might find it hard to get food from a restaurant because I am probably busy. Someone else out there, probably like you, Freda, let's say, for instance, you don't like cooking. That's a different thing entirely. But all of us, okay, we're going to be using this application. Okay, we're trying to solve this problem. I don't know if you understand me. We're trying to solve this problem. Freda, are you on this call? Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, we'll just move on. Maybe she is no longer on the call. So, like I said, we know what the problem is. We've conducted our user research, our interviews, and all of that. Okay, Freda says she understands now. Okay. We've actually conducted, because you're not just going to conduct an interview for one user and then you're done. No, people are different. We're going to have a lot of users on this platform. So we're going to conduct interviews for as many users as possible, as long as they are our target users. All right, so I'm sure I've answered Freda's question. We're going to move on now. Mish, can we hear you? Hello, Mish, are you on this call?
Yes, I am.
What's your question?
Okay, I've gotten it now. Don't bother.
Okay, no problem. All right, so one last person and then we're done. I'm seeing Farah here. What's your question? So we can move on to the next stage.
All right, good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, my question is actually regarding the first stage of the design thinking, because basically I'm actually worried about how a designer can, like, before I start any design process, doesn't mean that I have like an idea of maybe the problem I would love to solve. Then I will now maybe reach out to users, or people that I think are experiencing this problem. For example, this is what I mean. Let's say, the first stage is empathize. So I'm saying maybe as an undergraduate student, I feel people lack access to adequate information about maybe a course or something. That's like my perceived problem. Now, doesn't now mean I have to work my way around fine tuning that problem, or how do I actually come up with a problem to solve as a designer, something like that?
Hold on, Farah. I want you to hit the nail on the head. Can you refresh your question and be more direct?
Okay. Now, my question is how does a designer actually come up with a specific problem to solve? Because personally, I feel, coming from the phases of design thinking is kind of too broad, and it means I have to maybe in a way keep my ears open to maybe any type of problem. But what I'm trying to ask in a way is, does it mean as a designer I would always have maybe like a perceived problem in my mind that I would love to solve? Then I will now walk around the phases of design thinking to fine tune that perceived problem, or how do I go about the whole problem solving thing?
Okay, thank you very much, Farah. So I'm seeing, okay, an admin wants to admit this question. So I'm just going to give him a chance to do so.
Okay, so probably, yes, I think that's your name. So my answer to your question is yes. Okay, every design, of course, solves a problem. You want to solve a problem. And you said something about on being an undergraduate, and then people don't have much access to information. You just identify the problem. Okay, so UI UX designers, you guys solve. I know I'm saying you guys, I'm not fully part of you guys, in as much as I'm enthusiastic about UI UX design. But you guys solve problems. And someone comes to you, look, I need this product. The product solves the problem. So you are part of that problem solving work journey. You cannot design a product that you have not identified the problem. It all starts with identifying the problem. And that is the key. You must do that. Okay, that is very, very important. Before you make use of these design thinking processes on the problem that you have actually perceived. That's why when we talk about the whole of the ties and the lives, you need to have an idea of what you want to solve, of which you just actually mentioned one in the example that you gave. So your answer is yes. You must know the problem. Okay, then you fine tune these processes to be able to work. In fact, basically what you're doing is that you're passing that knowledge of the problem through these processes for the product to be able to come out to actually, in the right sense, solve the problem. So yes, you must. You're an MUSP. if you don't find the problem, how can you actually solve the problem? So I think I would even want to ask you, so what design, as a UI designer, what are you doing? Are you just duplicating designs? You go online and go on Dribble, duplicate, go on whatever you duplicate. Is that what you want to do as a UI designer? Nobody's going to employ you to actually go and duplicate designs on Dribble. They employ you to solve what? A problem. Okay, so my answer is what? Yes, you must know the problem, and then that problem that you have an idea of passes through these stages of design work thinking. I hope that answers your question. Thank you very much, Theo.
Okay, thank you very much, IQs, for that answer. I can't even remember who asked that question. So I'm sure that's answer. I would love to say more, but we do not have time, so we'll just have to move on to the next stage. Okay, Farami, thank you very much. All right, so we'll move to the next stage now. Prototype. Okay, that's the next question. Sorry, the next stage rather. So this is an experimental phase. The aim is to identify the best possible solution for each problem found. This is the stage 4, which we call prototype. Your team should produce some inexpensive scaled down versions of the product or specific features found within the product to investigate the ideas you have generated. And this could involve simply paper prototyping. Don't worry, all of this is big grammar. I'm going to break it down so that you could understand. So yes, time to get the winning ideas down into something tangible. I mean, we've actually generated ideas and all of that. We want to now bring them down, okay? Get these things down into something tangible. We want to know what this actually looks like. I mean, all our ideas and all of that. So in this case, this process calls for several prototypes. You're turning all the surviving ideas from the previous stage into low fidelity prototype. What's low fidelity prototype? Well, this is a quick and easy way to translate high level design concepts into tangible and testable objects. Okay, what we call paper prototyping. This is done as a sketch on paper. So I have my frame drawn out. I know that this is okay. Let's say, for example, on this particular screen I have drawn out is a sign up screen. We use that as an example. I want to keep it as simple as possible so you can understand. We all know what a sign up screen looks like. Okay, so I draw out a sign up screen, and then I put in boxes that actually symbolize each of these things. And then I have my button. We talked about primary button the other day, so I'm sure you're following. We have our primary button, which on the button we have sign up written on it. Okay, so I want to know, when I click on sign up, where does it take me to? What's the next screen? So this is what prototype helps us to do. Okay, it's like modeling the original product. We want to know what this product feels like, okay, before we actually develop it. Okay, so when we have that first screen, when we have the sign up, the next screen, okay, is going to be probably a success screen where you have sign up, successful, or all of that, or like it's the stages. Okay, we have this particular flow. This particular flow is the sign up and the login. So what prototype does is it allows you to interact with this design. Okay, this is where you get to now, you feel the design. This is where you get to know, okay, what did I do? Was I able to actually solve this problem? So like I said, low fidelity prototype, it can be done on paper. Okay, so when you're sketching up this is what you want your design to look like. You're doing that on paper. You can actually do your prototype too. Like this diagram is, you can see here on the right. This is what a prototype looks like, a low fidelity prototype. High fidelity prototype is where you have the images and this is where you actually put your visual design into display. But for the low fidelity, all you have is just boxes and all of that implements that represents these things. So you can see this here. This could represent an image. I don't know if you can see my mouse, my cursor is actually moving. So this is actually an example of a low fidelity prototype. So you can see these lines. So from here, we can move on to the next one. From here, we can move on to the next one. That's what prototype does. The most important role of lo-fi prototype is to check and test functionality. Like I said earlier, if I click on sign up now, where does it take me to? If I click on login, where does it take me to? If I am or I'm creating a food ordering application, and then I see a button that says order now. If I click on order now, what is the next action? What happens next? Okay, what screen do I see next? So like I said, the most important role of lo-fi prototypes is to check and test functionality rather than the visual appearance of the product. We're trying to check functionality. How well is this product functioning? And you should note that prototyping is very, 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 very important. Very important. Why? Because they make sure that there are no doubts over the main characteristics of the design. Because already like I said, how do I put this now? I'm looking for the right word. Like I said, it's modeling the original product. Okay, so you don't have to stress. You should take note of this. Don't stress if your prototype fails. It's actually preferable to have a prototype fail rather than the actual product. I mean, you want to have errors in judgment and potential problems in design stand out early before you now invest large sums of money into the development of the erroneous design. Okay. So like I said, in the prototype stage, this is where you bring up all the ideas, you get the winning ideas, all the ideas you've been able to come up with into something tangible. So in this case, you're turning all your ideas into low fidelity prototype. I said this earlier. So before I create any design or work on it, I'm working on a project actually, okay? And I want to know what the next step is. What I do is I draw my sketches. It helps me a lot and it makes me work with ease. So I already know what my sign-up screen is going to look like, the features, what the bottom nav is going to look like and all of that. I sketch them all out. I have my first flow. Okay, the first flow I know is the signing up and the logging in for the user. The second flow could be the user seeing the list of, let's say we're using food ordering application as a case study here. The second flow could be users seeing a list of restaurants that they can order from. That's another feature. Okay, so what I do is sketch out this. I sketch this out on paper. Okay, and where I have my buttons or those features, those icons that are clickable, I actually now link them to their respective screens. So like I said earlier, if I'm seeing a sign up button here, and if I click on this sign up button, where does it take me to? I'm seeing already have an account login. I click on the login. Where does it take me to? I am seeing sort by location. That's for the food ordering application. Okay, sort by location, sort by prices, and I click on sort by prices. Where is it taking me to? So that is that for prototyping. And like I said earlier, please note that if your prototype is not working or you find a fault or any of that, you don't have to stress. You can still go over it. Like I said before, it is actually preferable to have a prototype fail than the actual product. So all I'm trying to say is that this is the experimental phase. With the first one I said was empathize. This is where we got to understand the user. We now defined the problem, which is the second stage. The third stage, ideas. We generated ideas. We came up with a lot of ideas. At the end, we summed up these ideas. This is where we now have the prototype. So I have this idea for, I want this particular feature here. I have this idea, I want this particular feature on this application. So it's in this prototyping stage, okay? This is where I now identify the best solution for each of these problems. Like I said, this is where you get to produce some inexpensive scaled down versions of the product. Those specific features within this product, this is where you get to now investigate the ideas you have generated. And at the end of the prototyping stage, you ask yourself, okay, was I able to actually, is this feature working? Was I able to, was I able to go through with this flow, this design flow, or this user flow rather? So that is that for prototyping stage. We're going to move into the last stage now, which we call the testing stage. This is the fifth design process. Okay, so evaluators vigorously test the prototypes. So I said earlier, you know what prototype is by now, I'm sure. Modeling the original product. That's how I like to define it. Okay, modeling the original product. So this is where I give my prototypes to the users, okay, to go through it. And then when this is done, I give them a particular task. I ask them, okay, concerning this feature, were you able to do this? Were you able to do that? Were you able to place an order for food? Were you able to track your order? And all of those key features. Although this is the final phase, design thinking is iterative. I already mentioned this. It doesn't mean we've ended the process. You can still go over it. I mean, this is the testing stage. So if a user, at the end of the testing stage, your user tells you, I wasn't able to do this. This feature, I could not go through with it. Okay, this is the point where I got confused. This is the point where I got lost. You're going to go over your design. That's why we say, that's what we called it, an iterative process. Iteration, repetition. Okay, iteration is the repetition of a process. Teams often use the results to redefine one or more further problems. So the results you've gotten from the testing stage, I have been able to, okay, let me use someone as an example here. Who's here? We have Amaka. Okay, so let's say Amaka is our target user. All right, so I have sent this prototype to Amaka. At the end of the day, I want to know, I'm going to ask Amaka, were you able to go through this? Did you ever get lost in the process? Did you get confused? Okay, this particular feature, we're looking at the food ordering app. Were you able to order food off this online platform? Were you able to complete this action? Okay, when I've gotten all this feedback from Amaka, that's how, okay, she probably tells me she got confused in a particular stage. I have to redefine, okay, go over the process again in order to meet Amaka's needs. In order to make sure that, okay, I have actually solved Amaka's problem. Okay, so I'm seeing Udemed Jonah says he wants to give a contribution. I really appreciate that. So, okay, I'm going to call you up when I'm done. So like I said, Amaka tells me she got confused because of the icons I used. She could not understand, she got lost and all of that. I have to go over because what is the main aim is to make sure that I have met the needs of the users. I'm able to we define this problem, I'm able to solve this particular problem. So teams often use the results that they've gotten to define one or more further problems. So you can return to previous stages, I already said it, iterative process, that's what we call it. So you can go over the design, the processes again. So you can return to previous stages or make further iterations, alterations and refinements. So yes, the Institute of Design at Stanford gave us a great deal of advice as designers. So it goes, prototype as if you know you're right. Test as if you knew you were wrong. Okay. So testing your prototype isn't just about telling users to perform a particular task or asking them yes or no questions. It actually requires planning and some level of expertise if you hope to get reliable feedback from your users. Okay, an important part of this stage is validation. To take note of that, give the users your product and do not explain anything to them. I mean, they already know what this product is all about. They are target users. So what you're going to do in this stage is give the users your product and do not explain anything or elaborate anything to them. You should note that leaving users in the dark will provide legitimate reactions, okay, as people explore and use the product for the very first time. I mean, you want to ask open-minded questions that force users to elaborate on their feelings as opposed to yes or no questions. So you're going to give them this product to go through it and then you get their reactions. Okay, this is where they get to tell you their feelings. And I used Amaka as an example. She tells me, okay, this is where I got confused. Or it could even be a good feedback. Okay, I was able to go through this process or I wasn't. This is what the testing stage does. It helps us, okay, to know if we were able to actually solve a problem. So the diagram by the right, you can see testing. And you can see the process. We have ideas, prototyping, you see prototype again, because if at all your users tell you that, okay, they were not able to perform this particular action, they were not able to go through this flow, it's your job to go over it again, go through the prototyping stage. You can even think of ideas again. Okay, like I said, it's an iterative process. So you should take note that testing is your opportunity to spot problems with your prototype. You know, those areas you need to improve on, those I's you need to put a dot on, those T's you need to cross, and all of that. This is what the testing stage does. It gives you that opportunity to spot out problems in your prototype and fix up problems to, you know, improve on in some areas. So don't be afraid to take it back to the prototyping stage or even to the first stage. Because like I said, you can actually finish up a design process and then you give it out for testing. At the end, you find out you did not do anything. Frustrating, I know. You did not actually, you know, fix any problem. You did not solve any problem. You did not meet your users' needs. Don't be afraid to take it back to the first stage, you know, to bring up more ideas. Because with the feedback you've gotten, you'll be sure to get even more ideas. You'll be fired up to bring up more ideas, all right, in order to solve this particular problem. So I'm going to say it again, don't be afraid to take it back to the prototyping stage or even the beginning of the design thinking process. Remember I said design thinking is an iterative process. It's a repetition. So you likely learn new insights that might change the way you look at your products when you've gotten your feedback or at some features of the design. And it is always preferable to put these insights to good use and reiterate on your work, because the more you learn from this testing process and the more you reiterate on your design, the higher the quality of the final product. The user tells you, this is where I got confused, this is where I got lost. Of course, it is your job to fix it. Because I already told you we want to create a very beautiful experience for our users. We want to keep this as simple as possible. We want them to understand. At first glance, I told you guys last time that first impression matters a lot. So at first glance at an icon, using Instagram as an example, their bottom now they have icons we can relate with. So we're going to start with the first one, the home icon. We know, okay, this is home. This is the home page. We see the search icon. This is okay, if I click on this, I'm actually going to be able to search. All right, so we want to keep this application or this product as easy as possible in order to avoid confusion and all of that. So that is that for the testing stage. And now, what's the essence of design thinking? Why do we have to think? Why do we have to do all this? Why do we have to go through these processes? I'm sure you'll be wondering, is it that important? Why can't I just, I've gotten the problem. Let's say I have a client. A client comes to me and like, okay, this is the problem I have. And okay, how can you help? I remember Ferami's question. Of course, you need to have an idea of the problem you're going to solve. You need to have an idea of the problem you're going to solve. And then you do your market research. Who are the users? Okay, because I mean, you're not the only person who's going to use this product. You have to get to hear from other people, interact with them, know their feelings, understand their feelings, their pain points, and all of that. So what is the essence of design thinking? Why do we have to go through these processes? First, it prevents costly mistakes. You can see the picture on the right. I mean, frustration is written all over it. Imagine going through a whole process, and at the end, you find out that you did not do anything to help your user. I mean, you were just there wasting time bringing up features, designing stuff that people are not going to use. That is so frustrating, and we do not want that. What is the essence of design thinking? It prevents costly mistakes. So all of these mistakes that we do not want to make them. Okay, so it is better to actually go through these processes to understand the users, the people that are going to make use of our products, to define the product, bring up the ideas and all of that, to create a very beautiful experience for our users. So what is the essence of going through all these processes? To prevent costly mistakes. So we do not have to spend our time creating features, spend our time creating designs, which is not going to meet any need, which is not going to, make sense or even fix a problem. So I said, first is it prevents costly mistakes. Secondly, it helps to meet the client's requirements. I mean, just try to imagine the joy that you're going to have. We actually know that we're actually able to, meet the needs of your clients. This is the problem your clients gave you, and you went through these processes and then you gave him a solution. So what does design thinking do? It helps you to meet the client's requirements. Thirdly, it expands your knowledge. So with the whole thinking process, I mean, going over it, there is no how you're going to tell me you did not learn a thing or two. First of all, you're going to learn from your users. You're going to learn a great deal from your users. Okay, this is how I want this product to be. This feature will be better if it were put this way, if this was done this way, and all of that. It expands your knowledge. You get to learn more. And even when you're working with your team and people bring up ideas, it expands your knowledge too. So at the end of this whole process, you've learned a great deal. So what does design thinking do? It expands your knowledge. You get to find out more about your users. You get to learn a lot from this whole thinking process. Next, it helps in actualizing the right solution. What does design thinking do? It helps you to, bring up the right solutions for your problems. So like this diagram we have here, problem plus thinking, you have the solution. Okay, so design thinking, what does it do? It helps you to actually bring up the right solutions. I mean, look at the ideate state where you get to brainstorm, you get to hear from your team members and all of that. I mean, you already know, you already have an idea of what your users want. You'll be able to understand their behaviors, their pain points, their frustrations, their goals, and all of that, their needs and wants. So with that now, I'm able to think, the whole thinking process. Okay, when that is done, it actually helps in actualizing the right solutions for these problems. So, yes, we have come to the end of the class. These are the resources. So at the end of this class, I'm going to share the slide on the Slack workspace as we always do. So we're going to check out these resources. First of all, we have check out this popular IDEO video to see how design thinking was applied in redesigning a shopping cart. We have the second one, watch this short video on design thinking by InVision. The third one, Nick Babish short written piece on design thinking. So you just have to go through all of this and learn more. This is the kind of energy I want to get from you guys. I wanted somebody to chat me up by 12 a.m. with questions. Okay, so I went through these, I was reading these, and I have this problem. I'm trying to understand, what does this mean? That's the kind of energy I want to see. Okay, I want you guys to ask questions on the workspace. Interact. Okay, I mean, that's the main reason why we're doing this in the first place. So at the end of this whole training, you'll be able to, you have something to, show for it and all of that. Someone said 12 a.m., no problem. Of course, 12 a.m., I'm always here. Sometimes, actually. So I'm just saying that is the energy I want. I want people to ask questions, because asking questions, that's how you get to know better. I used to tell my students, my in-house, I do in-house students, yes, in a company I work for, that you do not just come to class every day and then you learn and then go back home, you fold your notes and sit down. I mean, that it doesn't work that way. As a UX designer, you have to practice. When doing these practices, okay, this is where you get to learn more. This is where you get to learn a lot. You cannot just go home and then not do anything. So when you're done in this class, go over this slide, okay? At home, go over this slide, try to find out more about design thinking. No knowledge is wasted, okay? Get as much information as you can. That's how you get better. So now I'm going to be entertaining questions, but I'm going to start with Udeme, who said he has a contribution. So I hope Udeme is still on this call. Udeme, if you're on this call, please raise your hand. Okay, Udeme Jonah, let's hear you, please.
Right, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, thank you. Sorry if I'm planning to take you back all over again. It's just that some of us that are having analog and brain, we do put things like this in more practical terms for us to understand. I'm sorry if how I am understanding it will not help others, or I am also grateful if it will also help one or two persons as well. The whole process is, I'm talking about the 5 thinking processes. Is what I want to put it in a more practical way that I understand. All right,
okay,
we mentioned
go ahead.
We started from the empathy, the definition, ideation, and prototyping and testing. Okay, so for me, all right, for me, I see myself as one who works at an NGO, so maybe who build houses for people that doesn't have shelter. all right, maybe a family, they walk up to my organization and complaining of not having shelter over them, okay, and then, and first of all, we empathize with them, and then what I mean by empathizing with them is this feeling of, wow, this is a problem that needs to be solved. Okay, so now what is the problem? And the problem is the shelter. Okay, these people need somewhere to be sleeping or to at least a roof over their head. That is I define what the problem is. And now I started I debating it. Okay, maybe I call the group of people I am working with, maybe even though it's a friend, it's not a bad thing. Okay, this is it, this is it, these people need this. Okay, how do we go about it? I think this is the ideation part of it. Okay, maybe a team of 5 or 6 or the number of people that we are working together. This one, okay, I'll bring so amount of money. Okay, this one I will meet the people that draw plan. All this, we bring out the ideas together. Now we move into prototyping. Now the prototyping for me, I think is when we started maybe after looking at the plan and then started building. Okay, finishing maybe at some point, then and hand over the building to the people that were actually in need of the shelter. Okay, and now the testing, I'm trying to get feedback from them. Have we been able to use all the appliances in the house? Have you been able to use the water? I hope the heater is working. What and what is not working in the house? Then, okay, maybe for them, the heater is not coming up. Okay, the switch at the veranda is not actually on. Then I go over again. Okay, we need to fix this, we need to fix this, we need to fix this. I'm just trying to do a rundown of the empathy, define, ideation, prototyping, and the testing, as in the way I understand the whole thing. Then I now relate it to a real product if I am building an app for maybe a restaurant. I don't know if that is what you actually thought today, because that is what I just understood this evening.
Wow, I'm glad you understood. That's actually very cool. Thank you very much, Udeme. Thank you very much. Samuel Opatola. Okay. You have a question?
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, so it's Opatola. Let me just go ahead and ask the question. I don't know if we've mentioned it earlier, but I wasn't able to join the class until about, let's say, 20 or 15 minutes because it was full though. So the thing is, the way to identify problems is to speak with users or potential users on what do you need, what do you think this thing hasn't been having, or what problems have you been having with this particular area for a while now. So I was thinking that tools can you share? I don't know if you've mentioned it earlier before, but can you just share some tools that you would use or that you think are best for having that kind of interrogation, other than physically or chatting people up randomly? What tools do you think are best for this kind of stuff?
Okay, Samuel. Well, there's what we call online surveys. So you should know that testing or interviews cannot just be carried out one-on-one. There's what we call user research. Okay, and then we have 2 types of user research. We have qualitative user research and quantitative. We're going to talk about that in our next class. Qualitative is where you get to do the interviews. I mean, this is a more direct method, while the quantitative, it has to do with numerical data. So in the quantitative, this is where you actually send out, this is what you call online surveys. You can actually use Google Forms to send out questions and then get responses from your target users. Okay, so you can do this online. I mean, if we're working on a project, I've done it once. You have WhatsApp. So you could just post it on your WhatsApp status to get feedback from people. This is how you get to know who your target users are. But you have to bear in mind that when you're doing this interview, there should be a question, okay, that will rule out the non-users. A question that for instance, we're using food ordering application as a case study. What's the question that's going to rule out the non-users? And then, so I'll be able to know who our users are. You could ask something like, have you ever used, or what do you think about an online platform for food ordering? Okay. Or do you order food from online? That could be like a ruler question. So the people that say they do not order food from online applications, or they do not have mobile phones that can do that, I mean, those are not our users. Okay, so going back to the question that you asked, yes, we can actually reach out to as many people as possible. You could be in Lagos and I am in Akwa Ibom now, but you could be my target user and I could send out forms to you, online surveys. I could still get, responses from you, ask you questions and get as many informations as possible. Okay. Or someone said, can I answer that? Okay. All right. So like I said, yes, you can actually do this. You can perform this. You can ask questions. You can conduct these interviews. The reason why I would prefer qualitative research, I told you qualitative is more direct. So this is where I know who my, the users are. They could be sitting down even close to each other. Because why? I could record the person's emotions. Most times for the quantitative, if I am sending out Google Forms to do my online surveys, I'm getting responses, but then I am not seeing their body languages. But it's different for the qualitative. Qualitative, can actually read your mood. I know from the answers that I am getting. You can tell when somebody is happy, you can tell when somebody is excited, you can tell when somebody is angry or when someone is frustrated. All of that, I am summing it up. I'm getting these informations from the users. I am reading their body languages. I know when, okay, this person is actually frustrated and all of that. But like I said, we're going to look at this in the next class. We're going to talk about user research. This is where you get to find out more about the interviews and all of that. So what's that guy's name, please? I hope I have answered your question, Samuel. Okay, so Leo Ekene, can we hear you?
Yeah. Good evening once again. You talked about prototyping, and from what I have done, I like the research I did like some couple of days ago. I noticed that prototyping and wireframing, I think they are alongside. And for people like us that don't have any skill of sketching, like for me now, I'm very, very bad at when it comes to sketching. For instance, I can't even draw a straight square for you or even a straight line. Yes, I mean is that bad. But the thing is, how do people like us now fit into this particular track and become successful, since we don't have a primary background of fine art or whatever?
Okay, so what exactly is your question, Leo? Hello, Leo.
Yeah, I said, sorry. I said people like us that don't have any basic knowledge or skills when it comes to sketching. Like for me, I can speak for myself. I'm not very good at fine art. Like I can't even draw a straight line without it having some flaws and all that. So I want to know whether we can actually fit into this particular track perfectly.
Okay, So your problem is sketching, right? Because we talked about lo-fi prototyping. I want to know if I actually understand you. That's what you mean, right? Hello, Leo. Okay, I think I'll have to answer his question because I need to know what he actually means, so I do not give him a wrong answer. So I'm going to call up the next person. Udeme Jonah, you already asked, so I'll just give the chance to someone else first. Oh God, I cannot pronounce this name. Inemawaji. Yes, if I pronounced it right. Can we hear you?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My question is, I guess that there are instances where you have to sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, and how would you be able to, sort that out when you have to probably make a survey and understand how users react? How can you relate that with an NDA?
Hold on, can you come again?
I'm saying that I guess that there are instances where they require clients expect you to sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement.
Okay.
And then you also need to conduct a search to know how far your prototype has gone in testing. So how do you relate? How are you able to sort that out, knowing that people are going to see firsthand of your design and will be able to test it? How can you help? How does it help you so that you don't breach that your NDA?
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, so someone wants to admit, okay, one of the admins wants to admit that question, so I'll just call him up to answer.
Okay, so yeah, in case of you having an NDA, okay. Well, first of all, if you want to, carry out a research with respect to a company, they have to be aware, okay. They actually have to see your research questions, okay. There's a way to actually, now a typical example is, there are ways you can ask someone a question without really, passing, giving out, the product. Like it could be more like, how I put it, you're just trying to be a bit quick with your questions, okay, not really hitting the product directly. But first of all, what I would say is this. If you're working with a company and they're signed an NDA and you want to carry out research, please make sure they see the research. They should see your research questions first, okay? Of course, there's always someone you work with, so they should see your research questions first, okay? So that you don't get to, expose the product or, expose the company and, their own ideas. So that's number one, okay? Let them see it so that you actually, save yourself, the trouble of, breaking the non-disclosure. But the second thing is, like I said, that there are ways you can actually ask the question without really divulging, what it's really about. Let's see. Can we actually just take an example? You guys have actually been using food ordering app, and stuff like that. Now, there are ways I could actually ask you a question about, you ordering food online that may not really seem like I'm talking about the food ordering app. Okay, let's see something like that. How about I ask you, can't you just, how would you feel if you're just at your house and I just bring food for you? You don't have to actually, you don't have to cook. If you need food, I'll just bring it for you. I did not say anything about online. I didn't say offline. I was nowhere. And I'm not actually putting it up like I'm selling you a product. It's just normal discussion, just for how would you feel if you did not have to, probably cook anymore? We just bring it to your doorstep. Okay. So you can coin your questions in such a way that they do not really reveal, the intention. They do not really reveal the product because, especially when you have signed an NDA. So that's something you're going to have to master. I'm not sure it's something I can, someone can teach you and I start teaching you, so that you have to coin, a way to ask a question in such a way that you don't really expose the product. But I would always want to go with the first one. Make sure The company you work for, who you have signed an NDA with, they get to see your research questions, so that if there's anything that kind of contradicts or goes against the non-disclosure that you signed, it can be treated and accepted before it's being sent out. I hope that actually answers it.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ikes. I don't know if she's still on this call, but I would love to add to that, but we do not have time, and he has said a lot. So Leo, back to you. Okay. She said thank you. So I'm assuming her question was answered. So Udeme is saying Leo asked for those who cannot draw. You should understand that we have two types of wireframes, okay? We have the low-fi and the hi-fi. So you do not necessarily, it's not compulsory to sketch on paper. Okay, these things work for different people. It works for me. Okay, it makes I told you, the whole design journey easier. But you should know that a wireframe traditionally only uses black, white, and gray, and can either be drawn by hand or created digitally. You can also use your digital devices, softwares to do your sketching, okay, your wireframes. It mustn't be a sketch on paper. Udeme, I'm very sure you can hear me. It mustn't be a sketch on paper. And Elvis, thank you very much. Yes, they are online tools. We have Balsamic. Okay, that's an online software. There are online tools that make sketching easy. Thank you very much, Elvis. So I'm sure that has answered your question, Leo and Udeme. So the next person is Ferami. Can we hear you, please?
Question earlier, somebody asked for maybe clarity on prototyping and testing. So in my mind, I kind of defined that. So I just wanted to maybe clarify or ask for guidance, because when you're explaining prototyping, it looks like you were actually explaining wireframing. That was why I actually saw prototyping. And then testing is like maybe after you have done the wireframes in high fidelity and maybe they are now responsive. That is when testing now comes to play. Like you are now giving the actual product to maybe the users to test or to try them out. Why prototyping is like you are ideating on maybe the user flow of your solution, something like that. I just wanted to ask if I'm on the right path.
Can you repeat that?
Okay. I kind of equated prototyping to wireframing. It's like you are creating a wire flow or a user flow for the solution you have concluded on. Why testing is like you are done with the whole products, like high fidelity, and they are responsive. Then you are now giving out those products to the users to test and then take feedback so that you can maybe redefine your solution further.
Okay, I think I understand your question. I want to answer this, but I'll give room for Ikes too, because he wants to answer. So I'm going to answer when he's done.
Okay, so I kind of get very interested in questions like this. When people ask, have this, there's always this argument between wireframing and prototype. Okay, are they not the same thing, and the like? Okay, so let me put it like this for you. Testing is not prototyping. That's for sure. Okay, you just take the literal meaning of the word testing. You're testing what you have done to be sure that it actually gives the required output. Okay, so you can actually even test your wireframe. You can test your lo-fi. That's the truth. So take out testing to, don't link testing to whether a wireframe or a prototype. Don't link it. It's a separate thing on its own. Okay. Now, but for wireframing and prototyping, now in the experience that I've had, being in the UI UX space, okay, there's a lot of opinions. So there are certain persons who say that wireframing and prototyping are the same thing. and the likes. Okay, so this is what I'll just do for you. Just look at it this way. Wireframing is black and white. Prototyping is colored. Okay. In wireframing, you're not really you don't really bother much about the colors. You bother much about the interaction, the functionality. Okay. In building a prototype, okay, when you look at the word prototype, it's something that is close to the actual word product. So of course, in a prototype, I should probably see, how the colors look. Okay, is the blue a dominant color and stuff like that? Okay, so if it's a student app, okay, how does the color? What's the color feel? Okay, how does it look? How's the button styled and stuff like that? That's why some persons call prototype advanced wireframe. So just see it like wireframe is focused more on what getting the functionality, the interaction, okay, getting those stuff out of the way. But when you want to build the prototype, when you're getting into building the prototype, or what we call prototyping, okay, you're now concerned also about the feel, about the look. Okay, there are also persons who feel that the truth is we use these words interchangeably, and sometimes it brings a lot of confusion. Like I can tell you that prototyping also is synonymous to linking of screen. You get there too. Where you're linking your screen. Okay, if I click on this button, how do I? If I click on this button, it goes here. Some people say, have you prototyped your design? Have you linked your screen? So it can be very confusing, but just take it this way so you don't actually confuse yourself. Wireframe focuses on interaction, okay? We don't really focus on the colors or whatever. Just it as black and white, okay? But prototyping is getting the product, something close to, with the feel, with the colors and the UX involved in it at the same time. Okay, so thank you very much. I think I'll just hand it over.
Okay, thank you very much, Ikis, for that again. So I think I saw on the chat somebody was mistaking testing for prototyping or getting the both of them mixed up. They're two different things. But I'm going to start with the question that this person asked. So wireframing is actually the layout of your design. And like I said, we have low-fi and hi-fi. Most of them are being sketched on paper. I think where you got confused is when I mentioned low fidelity prototype. I meant that prototype can be done on paper too, just like it can be done digitally. Okay, so wireframe is layout of your design, your text. And like I said, it makes use of, we're focusing most especially on the space and the content, the functionality too. And most times, wireframes typically do not include any color and styling or graphics. Okay, that is wireframing. Okay, but then prototype, like he said, is the linking. We want to know, okay, this is like the interaction of this design. We want to know what happens when we click on this particular button. We're on a sign up screen. What happens when I click on sign up? What happens when I click on login? This is the interaction. This is what prototyping is. So don't mistake it for wireframes. This is the linking of the wireframes. There are two different things. That's what prototype is. Linking of these wireframes. Okay, that's why I said we have low fidelity prototype, which can be done on paper. I could just decide to draw out my screens on paper, to sketch them out, and then link them using arrows. It could be an arrow to the right, an arrow to the left, okay, to show the interaction on this particular design. So I can decide to link the sign up screen to a next screen. So I know that from the sign up, I can decide to link the sign up button to the next screen. So I know that when I click on the sign up button, it is taking me somewhere else. Okay, and Elvis, thank you very much for the contribution on the chat box. And I was going to say this too. Please do not mistake prototyping with testing. They are two different things. I've explained what prototyping is now. Now, testing is when you give out this prototype to the users. It could be your clients. Okay, she said something about, I don't know who asked that question, but someone said something about signing an NDA. Okay, I might be working with a client. So it's my duty to do this testing with my clients. okay, to share the prototype with my client. So it's the client that came up with the problem. So he is, or she is, anyone, he or she knows everything about this product. Okay, so I can decide to, run the testing by my clients. Okay, ask my client certain questions and all of that. Was I able to do this? Is this working? And all of that. Okay, so do not mistake prototyping with testing. They're two different things. Any other question before we call it a night? Okay, Ife Oluwa, what's your question, please?
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
My question is it possible at the end of the whole design process, that is, yes, the design thinking process, is it possible to have like a perfect, like for instance, when you're done with everything and then you give out your stuff for testing, is it possible to have enough positive feedback that would require you not to go back to the other stages? Because we said that design is iterative, and by the time you get to the test stage, you would always come back to maybe the prototype, or to the idea or something. So my question is it possible to have like a perfect test stage that would not require you to go back to other stages, or at every point in time you have to always go back to, at least even if it's the second stage or the third?
Okay, Ife Oluwa, that's a beautiful question. So I want to just tell you that your output is dependent on your inputs. Okay, you ask, is it possible for any of this? Of course, it is possible to get positive feedbacks. I mean, if I go through the processes and I understand my users, I bring up ideas and all of that, I go through my processes effectively, it is possible. And I'm still going to say your output depends on your input. So, I mean, if you put in the required inputs to your design process and everything, or your design project, it is very possible to have positive feedback from your users. It is 100% possible. So, Ife Oluwa, I hope that answers your question. Okay, someone's hand, okay, Ikez has a question. So go ahead.
Okay, it's not a question, but I want to say something that sounds very contradictory and funny. So if you actually, you go through all these processes and then you come out with the perfect result, please, I'm begging you, go back and check what you did. Okay, go back and check. See the word perfect it can be a very scary word. Okay, I wouldn't want to say that there's no perfect, but I think I would want to say that coming out with the perfect result, in the sense of what the word is something that we should be scared of. Why? Because if I build, for example, I build an application and then I just put it out there for people to test, and all I am getting is positive reviews, I need to check my application, because it is possible that people are not testing as they should. It is possible that people are not testing as they should, or I'm probably not solving the right problem, or I've not gotten the actual user who is really having a problem. So if you get a perfect result, I would say please go back and check. Go and check your work again. Go and check. Give it out to more persons to test. Don't strive for perfection. In solving problems, don't go for perfection. Don't go for the perfect product. Okay, don't look for failures, look for problems, look for issues. You as a designer, okay, if you go through your design once, twice, 3 times, and you're not able to pick out one thing, just shut down and give it to somebody else to do with you. Okay, so please don't look for perfection. Don't look for getting the perfect stuff. Okay, it is scary to actually even want that. It's scary. There's no perfect. And what I like to say it like this: assuming Facebook was waiting till this moment to bring out the product with all the features they have currently, trust me, two things are involved. It's either you would not care about Facebook, okay, if that product would not even be out by now, or someone else would have actually just come up with that idea and started something. So don't go for perfection. In fact, if you see that everybody is giving you good accolades, go back and check. Go back and check. It will actually be a lie. It will not, for example, not all reviews you see on Play Store is actually true. Not all of them. Not all positive reviews you see on Play Store on an application. Not all of them are actually true. Some could be a setup. So please, okay, don't bother yourself about that. Instead, expect problems. You grow when you actually want to solve problems. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Ikis, for that answer. All right, so I'm seeing a lot of beautiful comments on the chat box. It's so good to know that my students are actually very smart. That's nice. So I want to know, are there any further questions before we round up? We do not have much time. If you have any question, this is your time now, or we will call it a day. Okay, in the absence of none, we're rounding up this class. And like I said, feel free to ask questions on the Slack channel. I want to hear questions. I want you guys to ask a lot of questions. And I hope you enjoyed this class. And I hope you learned a lot too. See you guys on Friday. And like I said, practice. Okay, someone is asking if there are any tasks. If there's any task. Yes, there will be a task in the next class. All right, thank you very much, guys. Have a wonderful night.